I just got this picture of myself in like a foxhole of like just war going on, and I'm just in this foxhole, like catatonic, cannot move, like. And I had this sense that that the Lord was saying, like, I'd be mad at a God like that too.
Welcome back to the Rheology Podcast. Rheology is a nonprofit ministry that is centered around rethinking, researching, and rediscovery, a process that dives deep into the depths of an intimate partnership with God through a concept Jesus initiated called ecclesia. We strive to cultivate an environment that is not only safe to question and seek, but also one that is founded on the truths of partnership, words of hope that were uttered from the lips of Jesus himself. So in this podcast, we'll question Christian tradition, we'll investigate God myths, and we'll listen to those who are stirring, questioning, and desperately seeking more of what God is doing in and around us each day.
Hey everybody, this is Scott Johnson with the Rheology Podcast, and today we're in a different location. This is not my house. This isn't my front room. This is not my eat-in kitchen area. It's not my office area. We're in a new location. This is the home of the Burdicks, and this with me today is Jordyn. And Jordyn and Drew are friends of mine from a long time ago. They're actually really, really good friends with my counterparts, Chris and Tyler. And y'all went to school together. Mm-hmm. So you went to Impact. So Chris and Tyler have pretty much, it's well documented about their experiences at Impact. So maybe we'll start pre-Impact.
Okay.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about like your growing up, did you grow up in a Christian home, go to church, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I was about as over-churched as possible, I think, short of having like a parent who was a pastor. My dad was a contractor. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I have 3 older brothers, and they had us in a private Christian school our whole lives. And we went to Central Church of God over on the south side of town my whole life.
So you're a Charlottean.
I am.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Now, for some of you people that are not in the Charlotte area, that's really a rarity to find someone who is an actual Charlottean, because there's so many transplants.
Yeah.
Like me.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're unicorns.
Are your parents actually Charlotteans?
No. Well, I guess it depends on how you define it. They weren't born here.
Okay.
But my mom graduated from a high school here.
Okay.
Country Day. But she largely grew up in Biloxi, Mississippi, and my dad grew up in Beaumont, Texas.
Okay.
And they met in Colorado, of all places, and then wanted to move close to family, and my dad did not want to go back to Texas because there's no trees and no hills, and he came to visit my mom's parents in Charlotte. They were here at that point, and just was like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. I want to live there. Let's live there. If I have to pick between Texas and North Carolina, it's North Carolina.
Yeah.
So that's what brought my parents originally here. Yeah. And they had my brother in Colorado, and the rest of us were born here. Oh. And we're all still here. Yeah. Like my brother lives in Huntersville. My other brother lives next door. Yeah. One lives near Uptown. And so... yeah, we went to Central. I went to a couple different private Christian schools, and it just was, I would define it now as an over-churched Christian school kid. Like, we were in, Central's great, like no complaints about it, right. Like I've been through a season of ruining that a little bit, but now I see it for a bit of a gift that it was, because through some of my story, the stuff that was packed away in my heart through that experience came back. The Lord used it when I didn't want to look at my Bible. I didn't want to, I didn't want to pick it up. And so it was a gift for sure to grow up that way. And grew up a little naive because of the bubble, but Yeah, I was goody two shoes. I never, did anything wrong on paper. It looked like I never really stepped out of line. Except maybe in like, when was that? 9th grade, 10th grade, 10th grade. I had a friend I met, and she was not a very good influence. Uh-oh. That's about the extent. We wore midriff bearing tops, and that was it. That was that was my. Oh no, not that.
Never that, please, no. Wow.
Yeah, so
you really were a kind of a bubble Christian kid, really.
Yeah. And being the only girl in a family with my closest brother is 4.5 years, I was very much like 4.5 years older. I was very much like kind of an only child, little princess, kind of like my parents just very much protected me. It's like the boys and Jordyn.
Yeah.
So, they were just, they gave us a lot. They provided every physical need that we needed, that we had. Like, they're great. They're still together. And, like I said, we're in church every Sunday. I was at youth group every Wednesday. I was, participating in the choir. I was pulled out as, a part of an ensemble because I had a better voice than most, and then on to, leading worship or participating in the worship team. Later, I'd go on to lead worship. I led worship with Alan Wallace a few times at Impact, a handful of times. So that was fun.
Yeah.
So I guess went to school, UNCC, found Impact. Impact was
How
great.
long did it take you to find Impact?
I found Impact my second semester, my freshman year. Okay. I tried a bunch of other ministries. That first semester was very, very weird going from, and I lived at home, so I didn't have that immersive like college experience.
Yeah.
So I was commuting for my freshman year, and I was trying to find a way to plug in because Central I'm sure they're doing better now, but they're young adults, like post high school, not married yet group was a little
lost in the mix kind of a thing.
Yeah. So, and it was far, and I wanted to, establish my own friends and stuff in college. And so, found Impact, met Drew that semester.
Oh, wow. It's kind of hard to miss.
Yeah. I met him not when I first saw him, it was definitely not like, oh, I'm going to marry that guy.
Right.
But
he's like, who's the tall dude over there?
Who is this guy? How did he break his arm? Yeah. Why does he have so much hair? So, but I mean, we got to know each other a lot more the next semester, and that's when we started dating. So we dated all through college, and got married 2 weeks after we graduated. So we graduated on like the 9th of May and married on the 31st of May.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your impact? Why did you kind of navigate your way and find your place at Impact? What was it about it that kind of like stood out from the other stuff? Friends?
Yeah, I think there was one girl in particular who was just very welcoming the first time I visited. And there was another guy I had met in one of my classes at the business school, and I think he invited me. So it just felt more welcoming. Like the other ones, I feel like I kind of floated in and out and nobody even noticed.
Cared, yeah.
In hindsight, I guess it feels like the Lord like brought Impact into my life. And I just felt welcome, and I liked the music. I liked the teaching.
So after college, and you guys get married literally 2 weeks after college. So tell me about like your spiritual life then, being married and starting off as a young couple. You're not in school anymore.
That was a weird time.
Yeah. Talk about that, because it is definitely weird.
Yeah, it's very weird going from being told what to do, where to go, like what's due and when, all your whole life, and then like, here, is open-ended nothingness, especially because we graduated in 2009. So neither of us were able to get jobs. Like you just couldn't. And I worked for my parents' construction company, and they had to lay me off. It was so bad.
Wow.
So, but even when you work for your parents, it's not the same as like, you know, you might go, if you go into the military, you go into an actual job, like your boss is like, can we need this by Friday? And you're like, okay, I can do that. Well, we didn't have that. It was just this very nebulous time of like, wow, we could literally do anything we want. Like, so, that was when Drew started the business when we graduated, and all that history of what was maybe going to happen and jobs that fell through, and then okay, well, let's just make something work and do graphic design. And he wanted to do this t-shirt company, which he'll tell you about when it's his turn. But so we did that and just saved as much as we could. And I mean, as far as spiritually, I think like we both came from really strong families, or our upbringing was very over churched.
Solid. Yeah,
solid. And but I don't think that we were mature enough to, like, we didn't know how to have the conversations with each other about our faith and stuff, which it's I guess because we met in a campus ministry, it kind of was like, oh, well, you're a Christian, so we're good, this is fine. But we didn't really talk about it much, and it felt, I don't know, it just kind of felt like one of those topics neither one of us wanted to delve into. And I don't, in hindsight, if there was somebody thinking about marrying somebody and told me that, I would be like, ooh, you might want to have a little explore that before you get married. But no. So there we were, married. We were still going to Impact. We went to Impact for 2 more years.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because that was our community. Like, we didn't want to run off on our community. Didn't feel like we needed to go anywhere else. And so I kind of started feeling less fulfilled at Impact sooner than Drew did. And so I think there was even a time where he was going and I wasn't. And we were going to Central on Sunday mornings. Now I'm thinking about it. Central on Sunday mornings, which is a big church that it's really hard to get connected in unless you go to like Sunday schools, which makes your morning a lot longer because you're going to the service and then Sunday school, or vice versa. And it was far. It was on the other side of town. And so it was like, well, we have Impact for our community and we have like Central for our actual like church experience. And it fit the bill for a while. And then I was like, I don't really see the value of going to Impact anymore. I think it was just because like we were like the elders. It's like we're like 23 years old, and we are not elders. This is not not that anyone is putting that on us, but it was like where are the people for us to look up to? Right. Where's the generations that are gonna pour into us? And so I had around, it was 2011. We finished out the school year, because Impact breaks for the summer. And then for the summer, I was like, well, what if we, go church shopping, I guess. And I pulled up a map and did a search of like a radius around the house. I'm like, I don't want to drive 25 minutes to church anymore. And pulled up a couple websites and looked at their statements of faith. And I got it down to five churches that we were going to try. And then it was like, well, I don't know, which one do we go to first? And I was on my way to Harrisburg from home to do some errands, and there was a sign on the corner of one of the cross streets that I was passing, and I recognized the logo. I was like, oh, we'll go there. So it was July of 2011. And our last, I don't know how you count it because it technically changed names, but we'll just say our last Sunday was July, the last Sunday of July this year. Okay. So 2020, for 13 years we were there.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit, because that is a long time to go to a church. And, typically you don't just stop going to a church, you wouldn't think, after all that time. So, I mean, obviously we're not trying to throw churches under the bus or people under the bus or whatever, but for you, what what started kind of changing, and maybe you can kind of go into like your stirring moment of like, something's not adding up here for me. What would that have been?
Yeah. So I feel like my stirring, in 2019, we kind of had like a personal like marriage crisis, and ended up landing in counseling. And we did it's like very exhaustive assessment the first or second meeting we had with our therapist, and she went over our answers and results and stuff with us. And long story short is that I was like, I think like on the scale of depression, a 40 would be like clinical, and I was like an 80. And I had no idea. I did not know that I was depressed. And when I was looking at the reasons why I would be depressed, like on paper, like my life did not equal depression.
Yeah.
And so she kind of was like, we need to work, you and I need to work on some things before we can, come back with both of you. And it was just so, I was at such a, like, I don't know anything. Like, everything I thought that worked would equal success in life is not. Like, my marriage is exploding. I don't like being a mother. I don't want to be alive anymore. Like, it's like all of the things that were on paper of like I don't come from a broken home. I have never lost like a loved one that's close to me. Like, my children are healthy. I'm healthy. My husband's healthy. Like, we did everything the right way. I didn't do anything. Is this because of the midriff bearing tops? Like,
that's it. Falls back to that.
It's gotta be that, So I'm trying to, I come from a contractor's family, a very, very, left-brained family, a very like MacGyver is like the
analytical,
pinnacle, like analytical, innovative, like solve the problems, like work smarter, not harder, all of that. And the theme that I recognized at some point after 2019 was that emotions didn't really have value in my family. Like, I don't remember being comforted, at least once I got older. I'm sure when I was small, comforted when I would cry, but like I remember distinct moments where I was upset and I was talking to my parents and I would start crying and they would just like do a double take and kind of not really say anything, and so I think I just learned like, emotions aren't really very valuable. Like, they don't really have anything to offer. And so I landed in this counselor's office with this off the charts, like depression, like statistic. And I'm trying to puzzle it out. Like, how did I get here? And ultimately it kind of sent me into a crisis of faith for a couple months because I did everything right. Like, I followed all your rules. I did things the right way. Like, I sang in your choir. I worshiped on your team. Like, I led worship. At one point I was writing songs, like worship songs that we would sing on stage. Like, I feel like the Lord was using me and speaking through me. And it was just so puzzling to me in that year of just like, why did I put in all of the right things that you were asking me for, and I'm not getting the results that I felt like were promised. And so there was, and I never would have told anybody that I was a gumball machine kind of Christian where I put in the quarter and you give me a gumball, like, good, go me, gold star. But really when it came down to it, like, that's what my theology was, because if you do all these things, you will get all these things. And that's not how it was working. And I was just upset at the Lord. I was mad. I was I was questioning if he even existed. Like, there was a point where I legitimately was like, I think I might have grown up in a cult. Like, maybe I'm that person that didn't know that I grew up in a cult. And now everything I based my life on, everything I based all of my decisions on is like, I don't even know if I can trust it. So where does that leave? It just felt like the bottom dropped out of everything. And I just stopped doing everything that I possibly could stop doing. Like, I would get up, I would get my kids ready and get them to school, but that, like, because I had to, you know, if I didn't have to, I would have just laid in bed all day.
Yeah.
And so working with my counselor, working through, like, she looked me in the eye and says, like, oh, it makes sense that you're in pain. This is called, like, attachment pain. This is, like, the most painful thing the human brain can experience, which was, like, super validating because I didn't have an answer for why I was in so much pain and why I wasn't okay. Like, I just had this sense, like, I need to just be okay. Like, there is no reason for me to not be okay. I need to just buck up and be okay. And funny enough, like, about a year before all of this happened, I was reading the story of Lazarus. And I mean, over church Christian school kid, I'd heard that story 2,000 times at least. Like, that's a big one.
That's one of the big ones
people go to.
Right.
Pastors preach on. And I thought I had heard everything about this story. And I was reading it, and literally feel like for the first time in my life, I felt like I actually saw people and, like, complex human characters instead of this, like, Sunday school, like, fictitious
superhero comic book thing.
And I saw the complexity, and I had questions. It wasn't just like, oh, this happened and that was a nice story, let's move on with our day, you know. It's just like, and I watched, as almost for the first time, I watched Jesus walk into this this funeral for one of his best friends, of, you know, the brother of two of his best friends. They're distraught, beside themselves, you know. And in my mind, well, he can raise him. We know he's going to raise him. Like, so, and I watched him walk in and not say, here, guys, I have the solution right here in my pocket. You don't need to cry. Yeah. And instead, he went in and he sat with Mary. And he sat with Mary in a very different way than he sat with Martha. And it was like, he sat with Mary the way Mary needed him to sit with her. And he wept. And then he sat with Martha in the way that she needed him to sit with her, in her anger and accusation at him. And I was like, what is going on here? Because he has the solution. You know, in my contractor daughter mind, I'm like, well, you needed a nail, he's got it. There you go. Just go pound it in and we move on. And so I was perplexed by this, like, what is the value of grieving with the women, with the group? What is the value? Why is that more valuable than solving the problem? And I was puzzled for a year, and I feel like it was the Lord putting down some groundwork for what I would be walking into the next year, because then I experienced him sitting in it with me. So I was angry. I was still going to church. We were still acting like we were fine. A few people knew we were not fine, but we're acting it all out the way we always had, because I had 2 kids. I want to be sure. I want to be sure before I do anything. I don't want to rip them out of something unless I am absolutely sure. And so I'm like, I'm not sure about anything. So we were still going to church. We were, you know, still trying to participate as much as possible to be normal and act normal for the kids. And this was like probably a month or 2 where I was going on, like, I genuinely think I'm in a cult. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do here, because none of this is real. And I was standing in worship. Worship particularly made me angry, because all of the songs were your promises are coming. Like, oh, this is going to be great. And I'm like, I was just mad at God and said some things that, you know, most people would tell you you're not allowed to say to God.
Lightning was about to strike.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm like, I'm tired of your carrot. Like, get your carrot out of my face. I'm not falling for this anymore. Like, it's all bullcrap. And I was standing in the back. I don't know what song was playing, but I just got this picture of myself in like a foxhole of like just war going on, and I'm just in this foxhole, like catatonic, cannot move, like. And I had this sense that that the Lord was saying, like, I'd be mad at a God like that too. And in my foxhole on the other end, Jesus sat down, and he didn't look at me. He didn't touch me, look at me, need anything from me, ask me anything, like nothing. He just sat down and with me. And I just got the sense that he's like, we can sit here as long as you want. Which was so different from the message I felt like I was getting from myself and from everyone around me. Well, nobody said it to me, but it just felt like, okay, when are you going to be okay? Like, when are you going to get over this?
Right.
And so to have Jesus, you know, sit down in there and be like, well, sit here as long as you want. It was just, it broke me, you know, and my anger melted away. And I saw that I'm not angry. I'm just like, I'm sad and hopeless in this hole, and I don't have the resources to do anything about it. Like, I needed Jesus to validate it and say like, hey, you don't need to be okay. It's okay to not be okay. Yeah. And you can be not okay for the rest of your life, and I'm still going to sit here with you. Yeah. And that was like, you know, Jesus walking into the funeral and not fixing it. Yeah. And he did eventually fix it with Lazarus. You know, he raised him from the dead and everything. But if he had done that without meeting Mary and Martha's need, like that's not his character. His character is to meet the need that is in front of him. Right. You know, and then to bring solutions. Yeah. So. Or not. Or not. Sometimes the solution is that he's just there with you.
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I would love to say that everything was rainbows and sunshine after that, but it was much more of it's 2024. This was 2019. Like, I'd say it was a good 3 dark years, 3.5. And I'm still sorting things out, and it's a new wave of sorting things out. But every time, you know, depression would kind of cloud, or just disappointment would come, or whatever, like I had that picture of, you know, Jesus in the hole with me, and slowly it changed over time. Like, slowly he was sitting there and not needing anything from me, and then it was kind of like I could scoot my foot over, and kind of like my shoe was next to his sandal. You know, it was like, I'm not looking at you or talking to you, but like, there's your foot, and you're there. You're actually there, you know? Right. And then it was like, okay, I can look up at him briefly. And then like, it was just tiny little baby steps over months. Yeah. Where it was just, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it was just go back in that place with the Lord. There he is. And you know, now I'm to the point where it's like, okay, I can, anytime I need to, I can reach over and grab his hand, and he's there. Yeah. And, you know, there's so much I learned in counseling through all of these 5 years now, of just how I was approaching things wrong. Like the whole gumball mentality, like God is a relational God. He's not necessarily, he has solutions, but that's not
the point.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, for several times the Lord would bring the verse of like, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. And it was like, in my head, I've wanted to write a song that's like, it starts off with like, I won't seek you first. I won't seek you first. I will seek you only. Because none of that other stuff matters at all, you know? And if you give it to me, great. But what I really need is for you to sit in the hole with me.
Yeah.
And it just changed everything about the way that I related to the Lord. And like, I think I got saved when I was like 5 or 6. I don't know. There's a fuzzy memory of me with my feet on the dash of our minivan, you know, asking Jesus in my heart. And I got baptized in 2011. But not that he didn't use me, not that I wasn't saved, but it was just so powerful meeting Jesus that way. And it was like, what have I been doing all this time? Like, this is what it's about, you know? And all that other stuff, I don't know, that got me nowhere. And so it's like actually meeting Jesus and learning from my counselor, learning from the Lord, learning from the people around me, and in a way that I just never was open to before, or not even open to. It was like I didn't even realize that part of the map was there. And it's just changed everything about how I relate to the Lord, what my walk with him looks like, the lack of shame in all of it, of like, oh, you didn't read your Bible for the last week, well, you better make up for it. You know, that doesn't enter my brain anymore. It's like, he's very much a good father. He's very much a loving father of like, you know, your kid falls down, you don't want them to like dust themselves off and like limp it off and then be like, hey, I fell, but I'm okay. Like, you want them to run to you. You want them to come to you so that you can do that for them. And that's the posture that I see the Lord has towards me now. Whereas before he was just far off, you know,
not real almost.
Yeah.
He's basically like a Lazarus.
Yeah.
He's a fictitious superhero in a comic book.
Right.
And it's not really real.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah.
From the whole Rheology team, we hope these podcasts are encouraging and educational. Rheology exists for 3 main reasons: to reach, train, and equip those who want to go deeper with God in this partnership called Ecclesia. If God has been stirring in your heart, where you are wondering if there's more than what you've been experiencing in today's 21st century Christianity, we'd love to connect with you, to hear your story and help you know that you are not alone. You can simply contact us via the website, rheologylife.com, or reach out via Instagram, @rheology_life. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.